since today in a little bit different status, and since now he's a spokesperson of ATO. And that was a joint decision of the Council of National Security and Defense of Ukraine and the administration of the President. And please, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. During the last day, terrorists committed 13 military provocations, armed provocations against Ukrainian armed forces, and 3 of them took place at night. Luckily, we don't have dead or wounded, no casualties. Terrorists and Russian military men continue to accumulate stuff and equipment on near Novozovsk and Yasinovato in Donetsk region. On occupied territories, Russian curators train militants to be subordinate to one command center. That's not simple. That's not easy. There are a lot of fights because of that. Ukrainian special services continue successfully find Russian infiltrators. For example, yesterday, counterintelligence of SBU arrested a group of infiltrators of 5 people, and they were citizens of Russian Federation. 2 mercenaries were recruited FSB staff, and in one of the prison from Donetsk in Donetsk region, where they were for heavy criminal crimes, heavy crimes, and the group had such tasks to collect information about dislocation of ATO forces and to create the network of agents among locals and to kidnap Ukrainian military men, etc. During the search, infiltrators had fake Ukrainian passports. SBU arrested a citizen of Russian Mykolaiv who was involved in kidnapping by Ukrainian. He was trying to hijack a Ukrainian military plane, and he organized meetings between the Mykolaiv citizens and with officers of the main intelligence department of Russian Federation in Belgrade. I would like to remind that his comrade was arrested several weeks ago. In Artemivsk in Donetsk region, SBU arrested a citizen of Ukraine. His nickname Monarch, is a monk, who trafficked weapons to militants, and there were a lot of ammunition, and he had a credential from a plot and also a plan of preparation of a terrorist attack, and also he has coordinates of Ukrainian military coordinates of Ukrainian bases. And we re-equip Ukrainian armed forces, and Ukremanch, which is a part of current program, signed a contract with one more American company, Defense Technology Incorporation, about supplying new radio location stations for artillery intelligence, and those devices efficiently find artillery of the enemy and could immediately identify the place from which they shoot or shell, and the range 10 kilometers, and they precise 75 kilometers at the distance of 5 kilometers. That will improve artillery support of ATO forces. And we expect that these stations the Ukrainian army will receive in the very near future. Ukrainian government takes care of IDPs from occupied territories, from liberated territories. They provide kids food, and Konstantinsky social service center provided 173 packages of kids food to mothers who left from occupied territories. And there's a Czech humanitarian organization, Ludina BD in Ukraine. In Konstantinsk, IDPs received 258 bank cards, and on those cards they have there is a sum of money from which IDPs can use to buy items they need. We would like to remind that organization worked in Drushkivka and in other liberated territories of Donbass. Groups of civic and military cooperation as armed forces of Ukraine help to residents of liberated territories in Donbass. In Luhansk region, in one of the towns that suffered because of shelling of militants, officers of Ukrainian officers provided and helped to repair high voltage power lines.
In the Donetsk region, the officers of these groups gave to the students of the secondary school in Svetogorsk and the boarding school in Mykolaiv the food products, and in Velika Novosiltsa they supplied to 300 families of IDPs the hygienic products and children's food. The volunteers also working actively in Alkhavatka near Yenakieva. The military gave to the representatives of local authority a batch of humanitarian assistance from the armed forces of Ukraine and volunteer organizations. The families with many children and families where the children are brought up without mothers or fathers receive the gifts to the holiday of St. Nicholas. Yesterday in Kurakhova, the border guards cleared through the customs the humanitarian cargo from the International Committee of Red Cross, which was going from Kiev to Terezov, Donetsk region. It is the construction materials of 72 tons. Also yesterday, the truck with humanitarian cargo from company person in problems, 8 tons of food products was delivered from Slavyansk to Donetsk. In the morning, at the crossing point Yagodin-Dorohusk, the 36 trucks with humanitarian assistance from Poland cross the border to Ukraine. These trucks have the food products, sleeping bags, and many other things, warm clothes for people. From the end of July to the 10th of December, 99 vessels arrived to Crimea, and they are from Russian Federation, Moldova, Cyprus, Portugal, Malta. These similar violations of Ukrainian airspace are made by Russian air companies, Aeroflot, Transair, and others. The financial sanctions are applied to them. The fines that they have to pay are about 300 million hryvnias, and they have to pay that to the state of Ukraine. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine addresses foreign states to avoid any actions which could be interpreted as violation of the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine, to stick to international and national legislation in a part that is about closed seaports and aviation ports in the occupied by Russian Federation territory of Crimea and Sevastopol. The President of European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, spoke for increase of financial assistance to Ukraine in the amount of 2 billion euros. Yesterday, during the state visit to Poland, the President of Ukraine, Poroshenko, stated the necessity of reviewing the existing global system of security and stated that now Ukraine deepens cooperation with NATO. Immediately after I come back to Ukraine, I will submit to the Parliament the draft law on refusals from out-of-bloc status of Ukraine, said the President of Ukraine. Your questions.
Thank you very much for the new position. How will that influence on your work? As to negotiations, there are rumors that it will be on the 21st of December. Is it true? As to the position, the responsibility is the same, maybe even more. As to negotiations, there are military, there are conversations to coordination and how to organize that meeting, because it's not clear. We cannot speak about the precise date. Negotiations go on, and Ukraine wants to hold that meeting as soon as possible. Yesterday, Border Guards Service published information about redislocation of Russian troops and equipment and rotation. Is there any information about that? Because in the morning, Leonid Matyukhin told that they check that information. Do you have any news? There is a general information that yes, along the border, there is movement of personnel and military equipment of Russian Federation, but to speak about crossing the border and coming to Ukraine, we don't have that information. Recently, in Russian media, there are more publications, and that Russia closes the project of Novorossiya, analyzing the situation in the east. Is there evidence to say that this is true, and Ukraine that Russia would like to pull back or regroup and attacks? So they don't allow you to say that. You see, the project of so-called Novorossiya. At the very beginning, it was not a born baby. It was a stillborn baby. The goal was they set up two gangs, and they captured some territories in Donetsk and Luhansk regions, and they called them DNR and LNR. Here they elected a fake leadership. But time shows that local people who, according to organizers of that Novorossiya, who was supposed to support those people from Russia, that shows that people quickly understood, and we see waves of protests and uprisings that people would like to come back to those times which we had to before DNR, LNR, to live well, to be paid salary and pension. And even those facts which we have as to that so-called, some of them join us, our forces, they provide information. We have more such cases, and so they desert, and it shows that even those who took guns and who believed in that idea of Novorussia, they understand that they have to go back, and they are looking for the ways how to justify their behavior. And if Ukrainian government comes to that territory, they don't want to be heavily punished, but in any case, the territory, in any case, it will be Ukrainian. It is Ukrainian. It's a matter of time. Please repeat how many shells or provocations were during the last day. There were 13 provocational shelling. But usually they used small arms, and 3 times it was during the middle of the night. One more question here. You have not answered the question, or I would like to verify. Does it mean about the closure of Novorossiya project that Russia will pull back from the conflict in the east? Or statement is one thing and actions it's something different. I speak about Russia. I am interested in their intentions. Thank you very much for your trust. And there is a press conference of Vladimir Putin. It's better to ask him that question. So I cannot answer. I cannot answer for him. I don't have those plans. So thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Colleagues, next briefing will